All right, so today we're going to unpack this Clean Science and Technology Q3 FY25 earnings call.
Okay.
I know I think a lot of our listeners are interested in this company, and for good reason.
Yeah,
There are some really fascinating insights in their recent performance.
for sure.
We're working with the conference call transcript from January 30th, 2025.
Okay.
Just to kind of set the stage really quickly, Clean Science and Technology is an Indian chemical manufacturer, and they're really known for their commitment to sustainability.
hmm
They've been making some really interesting moves, especially when you consider that the global chemical industry is, well, it's having a tough time right now.
It really is a challenging environment, yeah.
It is. It makes their performance really stand out. I think they had a 20% year-over-year sales increase, and get this, it was mostly driven by volume growth,
Wow.
which is, I mean, that's not easy to do in this market.
No, not at all.
And even more impressive is that they haven't increased prices, even though raw material costs and exchange rates have actually been moving in their favor.
Yeah, it seems like they're prioritizing market share, and those long-term customer relationships instead of just going for like a quick short-term gain.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of customer relationships, let's talk about the HALS product line,
Yep.
which has really been, I mean, kind of a huge success story.
It has.
I guess, for those who don't know, HALS stands for hindered amine light stabilizers.
Right.
And they basically, I mean, they're specialty chemicals that protect materials from degradation from sunlight.
Yeah, like plastics and coatings, things like that.
Exactly. And they're essential for all kinds of things, from automotive parts to those agricultural films.
Mhm.
Clean Science and Technology, they hit their target production volume of 200 tons per month, and they did this by December.
That's great.
And they've launched a full range of HALS products, and they already have customers using them. I mean, for a new product line, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it is. It shows that they can really identify those market needs and then develop new products and then get them to market really quickly.
Yeah.
And now it seems like their focus is really shifting towards aggressively growing the HALS market
Oh,
and also expanding their distribution network. And they're projecting sales of 3,000 tons of HALS in FY26.
wow. That's a pretty bold target, but it seems like, I mean, they have a knack for going beyond expectations.
Yeah.
So let's move on to something else that I thought was really interesting in this call.
Okay.
And that was their strategic product shifts.
Right.
So do you remember that PBQ product?
Yeah. Didn't they have some quality problems with that?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
they did. They had some quality challenges with that one.
Well,
And so they made, I mean, it was probably a tough call, but they dropped PBQ entirely. And here's the interesting part.
okay.
They repurposed that entire facility to manufacture barbituric acid.
Oh, wow. So barbituric acid, I mean, that's an intermediate that's used to produce pigments.
Right.
And right now, India imports all of its barbituric acid from China.
It does.
So this is, really a textbook case of import substitution. This is great.
It really is. And Clean Science and Technology has already gotten approvals for their barbituric acid from some really major customers like Sudarshan Chemical.
Okay.
And they say that production should start in the next 3 months. And they're projecting potential revenue of Rs 60-80 crores.
Wow. So they not only fixed that whole quality issue they had, but they also created a new revenue stream and a new source for a domestic source for this really important chemical.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really, a textbook example of how to turn a challenge into an opportunity.
Really is.
And it really aligns perfectly with India's, big push for self-reliance in a lot of these key industries.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't enough, they've also launched a new pharmaceutical intermediate
Oh, wow.
called DHDT, which is used in the production of lamivudine, which is an antiviral drug.
Oh, okay.
So this is another big import substitution win for the company.
Mhm.
Clean Science and Technology is now a key domestic manufacturer of DHDT.
Right.
And this further solidifies their position in the pharmaceutical sector.
It does.
And the DHDT plant, which was built with a Rs 30 crore capital expenditure, is expected to generate Rs 80-90 crores in revenue.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, this just shows their smart capital allocation and their ability to find these high return projects.
Yeah, and they're already working with these customers in the Indian market.
Right.
So they think that they can get to that, that optimal capacity utilization in about a year and a half.
That's impressive.
which is pretty fast if you consider that they're new to the DHDT market.
Yeah, they really have a good understanding of their target markets.
It seems like
They're good at finding these, these really specific niche opportunities, and then even more importantly, they do a great job at actually executing on them.
yeah, they do, and it's not just one or two things. It's like they're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
They the first 9 months of FY25 they spent 160 crores, and this was mainly on their subsidiary Clean Pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
And then they're also working on this new performance chemical plant, which should be commercialized in the second half of FY26.
Okay.
And, even while they're doing all this expanding, they're not forgetting about using what they already have.
Right.
And so they've started using some of the capacity at the HALS facility to make BHT or butylated hydroxytoluene, which is another antioxidant that actually works well with a lot of their other products.
Okay, so repurposing existing capacity like that is a really smart way to expand their product portfolio.
Yeah, it is. And they're saying they could potentially produce something like 2,000 to 3,000 tons of DHT annually.
And they project that it could bring in about 60-80 crores in revenue.
Okay, so lots of expansion, especially in the HALS market.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about about the competition there? Like, who are they up against?
Well, their main competition is Chinese and European companies, with BASF as kind of a key player.
Okay.
It's a global market, and there are definitely some big names out there, but Clean Science and Technology has been really smart about who they're working with.
Okay.
And they've decided to only use distributors that are brand new to the HALS market.
Oh, so they've totally avoided any potential conflict of interest with the distribution networks of those existing players.
Exactly. It shows a really nuanced understanding of how things work in that market.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Okay, so with all this going on in the chemical segment, let's talk about pricing.
Okay.
Because we all know that the market is seeing, some pretty low prices right now.
So how is Clean Science and Technology dealing with all this?
Well, they don't think the prices will drop any further, which is, that's good.
That is good news.
Yeah, and even with the prices the way they are right now, they've still maintained some really strong gross margins.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
It is, and their strategy of really focusing on these high value products and the import substitution, it seems to be working.
Yeah.
And when it comes to HALS, they think that their margins will actually get even better as they start, selling more of those higher price, more advanced HALS products.
Okay, so even though they've had some bumps in the road, they're in a good spot.
Yeah, they're not just surviving out there; they're doing really well.
They are.
Their decisions, their commitment to innovation and that focus on those high margin products, it's all working for them.
Yeah, it really is fascinating to see how they're not just adapting to the market conditions, but they're actually using the current conditions to their advantage.
Right.
And that brings us to another point that really stuck out to me from the earnings call.
Okay.
And that was their commitment to green chemistry.
Yeah, and it's more than just, something they talk about.
Right.
It's really a part of how they do business and their whole philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see it in everything they do, like from the raw materials they choose to, their manufacturing processes. And even, think about that PBQ facility.
Yeah.
They could have just scrapped it, but they didn't.
They did.
They repurposed it.
Exactly.
It really shows that they're in this for the long haul. It's not just good for the environment, it's good for business too.
Absolutely.
Gives them, an edge over the competition, especially now that everyone is so focused on being environmentally responsible.
Yeah, for sure.
It really makes you wonder, with everything they've accomplished so far, and where do they go from here?
That's a good question.
They're already shaking things up in the specialty chemical market. So what's next for Clean Science and Technology?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
They're so strategic with how they grow and their focus on being innovative and their ability to find and then commercialize these niche products. Could they become one of the major players on a global scale?
That's a really interesting thought.
Yeah.
They definitely have everything it takes to be successful.
They do. And that commitment to green chemistry, I
Yeah.
mean, that could be a major advantage for them in the global market.
Yeah, this whole deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
We too.
Clean Science and Technology is definitely a company to keep an eye on.
I agree. They're doing things differently, and they're really showing that sustainability and profitability, I mean, they can go together.
They can.
And that's a powerful message,
It is.
not just for the chemical industry, but for every industry.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a step back for a minute and just kind of recap what we've learned from this deep dive into Clean Science and Technology's Q3 FY25 earnings call.
Sure. I mean, we've seen that they're really resilient. You know, they're doing well in a market that's pretty challenging for everyone else.
They are.
They're not just getting by, they're actually thriving.
Mm-hmm. And they're doing it by strategically, expanding that product portfolio.
Yeah.
And they're focusing on those high margin products, and they're taking advantage of these import substitution opportunities.
Exactly. And they're making these smart decisions, like when they dropped that PBQ product and they took that facility and repurposed it to make the barbituric acid. It shows how adaptable they are and how strategic they are in their thinking.
They are, and the HALS product line, I mean, it's clearly set up for some major growth, especially with their plans to expand that distribution network.
Yeah, for sure.
And we can't forget about their commitment to green chemistry,
Right.
which is, I mean, it's really in every part of their business.
It is.
And it puts them in a really good position in a world that's becoming more and more focused on the environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it seems like they're really good at spotting those gaps in the market and figuring out how to fill them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they do it in a way that's good for the planet and good for business.
Exactly. And that's a winning combination, right?
It is. It is.
Especially today.
So I think the big takeaway here is that Clean Science and Technology is a company we all need to watch. They're innovators, they're agile, and they're thinking long term.
Yeah. And they're showing everyone that you can be sustainable and still be really successful financially.
Yeah.
And that's a really important message, not just for the chemical industry, but for everyone.
It is.
It really is.
It makes you wonder if they can keep this up, what kind of impact are they going to have on the global specialty chemicals market, in the years to come?
Yeah.
Could they actually become, the leader, the one that sets the standard for everyone else?
I mean, that's what we need to watch and see what happens.
It is. Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
You too.
And I hope it's done the same for you too.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here today and sharing your insights.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
It's been great diving into all this with you.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into clean science and technology.
Thanks, everyone.
We hope you found it informative and maybe even a little inspiring.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
Keep diving deep.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And, it makes you wonder, with all the stuff they're doing,
Yeah.
where do they go from here?
Right.
I mean, they're already making a pretty big splash in the specialty chemicals market. So what's next for clean science and technology?
Well, then that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
When you think about how strategic they are, with their growth and how they focus on innovation and their ability to find these niche products and then actually get them out there and sell them.
Yeah.
I mean, is it possible that they could become a real major player, globally?
I mean, that's a really interesting thought. I mean, it's possible. They seem to have, all the right pieces in place.
They do. And that commitment to green chemistry,
right?
I mean, that could be a huge advantage for them. When you think about the global market.
It could. This whole deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
You too.
Clean Science and Technology is definitely a company to watch. Keep an eye on them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're not afraid to do things differently.
Yeah.
And they're really showing everyone that you can do things the right way, for the environment and still be really profitable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's an important message, not just for, the chemical industry, but for any industry.
Right, exactly. It's for everyone.
Yeah, it really is.
It is.
Okay, so why don't we take a step back for a sec and just sort of recap, what we've learned from this deep dive into clean science and technologies Q3 FY25 earnings call.
Sure. So, I mean, I think the big thing is that we've seen how resilient they are.
Right. I mean, they're doing well in a market that's really tough for a lot of companies right now.
They are.
They're not just surviving. I mean, they're doing really well.
They are, and they're doing it, they're being strategic about it, with expanding that product portfolio,
Right.
and they're focusing on those high margin products, and
Yeah.
they're taking advantage of, those import substitution opportunities.
Exactly. And they're not afraid to make, some tough decisions.
Mhm.
Like when they got rid of that PBQ product
Right.
and they took that whole facility and turned it into, a place to make barbituric acid. It shows how adaptable they are
Yeah,
and how strategic they are with their thinking.
they are, and that HALS product line.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty clear that it's ready for some pretty big growth,
Mhm.
especially with their plans to expand that distribution network.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't forget about how committed they are to that green chemistry. I mean,
Right.
it's really a part of everything they do in their business.
It
And
is.
it puts them in a good position,
Yeah.
as the world is getting more and more, concerned about the environment.
Absolutely
It's
good.
like they have this real knack for seeing where the market is missing something,
Yeah.
and then they figure out how to fill that gap.
Right.
And they often do it in a way that's good for the planet and good for their bottom line.
Exactly. And I mean, that's a pretty good combination these days.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the big takeaway here is that clean science and technology is a company to watch. I
That's
mean, they're innovative, they're adaptable, and they're really thinking about the future.
Yeah, I mean, they're showing everyone that you can be sustainable and still,
Yeah.
have really strong financials. And I mean, that's a message that people need to hear,
Mhm.
not just in the chemical industry, but everywhere.
Yeah. It is. It makes you wonder though, if they can keep this up.
Hmm.
What kind of impact are they going to have on that global specialty chemicals market in the next few years? I mean,
Yeah.
could they be the ones that really kind of set the standard for everyone else?
So I guess that's what we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this whole deep dive has definitely given me, a lot to think about,
Me too.
and I hope it's done the same for you.
Have fun.
So, thanks for being here today and sharing your insights. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah, yeah, it has been. It's been great, kind of diving into all this with you.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into clean science and technology.
Yes. Thank you.
We hope you learned some stuff and maybe even, got a little bit inspired.
Yeah.
So until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
Deep diving deep.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Sounds good.